Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat. Coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, July 10th. Man, it's going to be a warm one out there, a wet one. Dustin is with us again today. We thought we were going to give him an early hiatus to the weekend, but no, we can't get rid of him. So Dustin is back with us again. We can't live without him. Ernie Thompson on the program today, Dustin. I am so looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that one too. He's going to have some good stories. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I've been kicking myself all week since I'm being open about this and honest because I could take some slack, but I just did not know he and Anthony were brothers. I think what happened is when I was in college, because I was in school at the same time they were, and I think that I must have asked somebody and some idiot said, no, they're not. And then that's the answer that's been in my head ever since because there's been no reason to investigate it since then. But
to reconsider it.
Man.
Yeah, you just think that would be very, very public knowledge.
It is just driving. But I've asked so many people, and so I don't feel as bad because I've yet to find somebody that says, "Oh yeah, I knew that."
I definitely knew that. Yeah.
I've not got this, but there's certain people I've avoided. Kit Klingelhofer was here. I saw him yesterday. I avoided him. He's the former SID at IU, so I know
he would know.
Yeah. I know he would know it. But
Kit would have known, and he would have told you were wrong.
And I was an idiot because he was one of my professors, and so he would have been right, and he would have been correct. And he would have been correct. But Alec Lasley's on the program today too. We're going to talk about some basketball news as well. Basketball going on this weekend. I'll be up to watch the Indiana Elite guys, Trey Kaufman and Logan Duncombe, and see if we can talk to those guys and find out what's going on with them and what's new and all that. And then other than that, though, of course, the news came out yesterday, Dustin, that there's no shock at all, but the Big Ten went ahead and made it official that the fall sports schedule period will be conference only. And so there's a lot of things that quickly we may not think about it. Just coming to my head real quick, soccer, you got IU's got some soccer rivalries with UK and U of L. Louisville, that's a great series. Two great soccer programs. Sure. We won't get to see those games. The football, of course, their non-conference schedules is nothing to speak of. But there's going to be other schools like there was a senator I noticed in Iowa that's upset that the Big Ten has done this. But now, once I started reading, I'm like, well, that makes a little more sense. Iowa's not going to get to play Iowa State as of right now. That's a big loss. Now, I get that one hurts.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that was Chuck Grassley who piped up about that. I got thoughts on Chuck Grassley. I'm just going to let pass. Anyway.
The fact that you already knew who the name was, I'm like going, uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I saw it. I saw that pipe up. I pay too much attention to political Twitter, so I'm not going to get into that at all. No, I mean, it's obviously a tough deal for some of those non-conference games and some, rivalry games that go across conference. And so I get it. I mean, the question obviously comes up that you ask, okay, well, what's the difference? I mean, if it's an in-state rivalry, just this doesn't have to be in the same conference. Like, how is that damaging? And it's not. Basically, that's not really the issue. The bigger thing is making it so that every crisis that you might come up with is easily handled when you're only playing in the conference. Basically, if you have to cancel a game, it's more difficult. If if everyone's playing non-conference games, it's more difficult. If you make it a conference-only season, let's say if you have a team that has a really bad outbreak and they can't even play, like if you've got to they got to take the year off. That's way more easily handled in conference. It's way more easily handled in conference, and you've got more dates that you can play around with, got more things that you can do with the schedule. It's going to be a pain no matter what, but it's a lot easier when you can just handle it within the league. So, I mean, just everything becomes a lot more – it becomes a lot more easily functional. So, but I do think I don't think every conference is going to do it exactly this way. I think you'll see some carve-outs. For one thing, I think the ACC and the SEC can probably make some things work. Someone pointed out, there's all this long-standing in-state rivalries. Georgia Tech, Florida State, Kentucky and Louisville. It's like, okay, can you find a way to just play those games and maybe let a Texas A&M play a Texas, or something like that, or it's
obviously there's another one. I'm sitting there trying to think of the ones that were out of conference, and I forgot that this because A&M went to the SEC. There's one right there, another one that's out of conference. So I was like, oh wow, there's another big one. Because I was trying to think there may not be a lot of big ones because the majority of them are within conference, and there's one that used to be that's no longer is. But are those the only two? Can you think of any other big ones that may be non-conference like that? There's none that are jumping out of my mind.
There are that might cross state lines. I mean, I think Pitt in West Virginia is a big one. Pitt in West Virginia is a huge one, and that would probably make sense for those conferences to still find a way to play that game, to find a way to play the backyard brawl, and because that's close enough. I mean, Morgantown's about an hour away from Pittsburgh, going down 79. So stuff like that, I can see them looking into, especially those three leagues. I can see trying to do that, just especially as much as the ACC and the SEC tie in together. And I think they try hard to try to play those. And I think the ACC and the SEC are more likely to look into that.
Here's a great question for you. Notre Dame, they're not really in a conference.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's going to be, that's why it works out for them that they've been sort of tied in with the ACC. I expect them to, for all intents and purposes this season, be an ACC team because they've been doing that deal where they're playing 5 ACC games. But you take a lot of classic Notre Dame games off the board. They were supposed to play Wisconsin this season at Green Bay at Lambeau Field. That's off the docket. Maybe they'll try to reschedule that one. I think they're supposed to play in Soldier Field next year. But that that game's off the docket. Certainly, you presume Notre Dame USC and Notre Dame Stanford, which are a couple classics, aren't going to happen. Don't know what they'll do. Imagine they'll still play Navy. But I think the ACC has already come out and said that they'll do what they have to do to help Notre Dame. Basically, I mean, Notre Dame's a member in every other sport but football, and for this year, they're going to effectively be a member in football. Now, whether the ACC will use that as leverage going forward to say, hey, when you needed us, we stepped up and we were there, you owe us, I don't know. Probably not, because ACC hasn't tried to be super heavy-handed with that. But, Notre Dame is going to owe the ACC one, but the ACC is going to apparently step up.
This is, to me, a huge advantage for Notre Dame because the ACC is weak. They were as weak last year as I've ever seen a Power 5 conference. And I don't know what they have coming back this year, but that gives Notre Dame should run roughshod through their ACC schedule.
I mean, and depending on who they add, obviously Clemson at a different level than everybody.
That changes the conversation there, but they
just slightly. Clemson's at a higher level. I mean, it's still wild to think of when you remember when the ACC was, when they started building, when they started raiding the Big East and they started, taking over all these other schools, you thought, man, the ACC is going to be a power. I mean, that's when you're talking about Miami and Florida State and Virginia Tech, and
it was heading in that direction. Louisville was good, and all that. And you're right, but then it went away.
It has not materialized the way that it was supposed to. Just a lot of those programs have not stepped up and stayed up. I mean, Florida State has faded after they were just such a power for such a long time. Miami's had a couple years where they've been all right. During their ACC period, but largely they have not been what the ACC signed up for.
Virginia Tech has fallen off.
Yeah, Virginia Tech has faded and become very average. Virginia is just okay. Louisville is just okay. I mean, just last year, the ACC Coastal was just like everybody's 7-4.
It was horrible.
It was,
to me, that gives Notre Dame a gigantic advantage because, will they have to play or get to play Clemson? That's the thing.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the ACC's got to figure out what it wants to do, whether it wants to sign on to this idea, and how it wants to incorporate Notre Dame.
Does Notre Dame want that game?
Notre Dame Clemson? I'd have to think yes. I mean, what good, if they throw them in the Coastal, and you got to decide, okay, are they going to have a division?
That was my next question because the only way they're getting into the national picture is over Clemson, and then they're going to have you just brought the question up. Next, are they going to have a championship? Or is it just going to be head-to-head competition? Which with playing conference games only, and if everybody played everybody, which they're not going to do that.
Yeah, they can't get that done. So I mean, they would have to. Again, we're presuming a lot. One, that we do play this thing because not trending well. Yeah. And two, that they have a postseason. They have a tradition, what has become a traditional postseason. Like I said, it wouldn't shock me if you get to the end of the year, because there's been this talk about expecting a second wave, around, the holidays. And there's a big reason, like a lot of schools are talking about not coming back after Thanksgiving. If you go home, see your family, just stay there and ride out the rest of the semester, from your house. So it's like, okay, if that becomes a thing, do you bring the kids back and send them to a championship game? What does that look like? And it's like, okay, do you end up playing this thing out or not? If you do, okay, does Notre Dame, obviously you end up with unbalanced divisions. In that case, if you throw Notre Dame in there, you're going to have either the Atlantic or the Coastal is going to have an extra team. How does that look? What do you do to play around with that? Do you put Notre Dame in the Coastal just to try to engineer a Clemson Notre Dame championship game? Do you do it just for that reason? Just put Notre Dame in the weaker division just to try to make it happen? I would do that if I were the ACC.
How big would that game be?
Massive.
Clemson Notre Dame.
Gigantic. If you can make it
ACC happen. Hasn't had anything like that since they became this new ACC. I don't think.
No, not since there's been a division championship game, a conference championship game. There hasn't been. Yeah, there have been some okay ones, but largely it's been somebody beating the crap out of somebody else. It is. I can't think.
And it usually was Clemson doing the beating.
Yeah, Florida State was for a while when they had Winston and those guys. I can't remember a period where the ACC. I can't remember a year where the ACC championship game was not a foregone conclusion.
Because all the good teams were always in the same division every year. Florida State, Louisville, Clemson are all in the same division, if I believe.
Yeah, and usually there's been one good team. Usually there's been one really good team, head and shoulders above everybody else, and whoever won the other division just had to step up and play that one. Yeah, it's generally been the Atlantic in this period. Clemson's obviously been it for a while. I said Florida State was it before that.
They did have a good run with Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, and Clemson was good as well. They weren't Clemson, but
right. Yeah, you mean Jameis Winston, because it was Watson and Jackson were at the same time, but Louisville's had some good years in there. But Jameis Winston going back. Florida State was just phenomenal.
But it's all on that same side. It's much more pronounced than the Big Ten, which we've always talked about the Big Ten East being such a juggernaut, and the West it's Iowa and Wisconsin usually.
Yeah, Wisconsin's has always been there. Wisconsin's been steady. Now, obviously, a couple of those years, Wisconsin has been great. And you throw a Northwestern in there or Nebraska in there, and it's not what you expect it to be. But generally, you can kind of rely on Wisconsin being that team that's going to be, 9-3, 10-2, and that's going to be enough to give a Penn State or an Ohio State or a Michigan a run. They're at least going to show up. Where it's the coastal teams, sometimes it's been Duke, it's been Miami, Pitt, just and versions of those teams that were not that great.
We got more football to talk about here next. Ernie Thompson's going to join us. Man, if you didn't know he was the brother of Anthony Thompson, you're just like me, so you're no different. But looking forward to talking to Ernie. Recently graduated from IU, got that done. So looking forward to talking about that and just catching up with him. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Tuesday's gray and Wednesday too. Thursday, I don't care about you. It's Friday, I'm in love. Monday, you can fall apart.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, July 10th. Couldn't be happier now to be joined by Ernie Thompson. Ernie, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. I'm Jim Coyle here. Got Dustin DePirick as well. Happy to have you on, and just been kind of laughing all week because I was in school when you and AT were both in school, and I did not know that you guys were brothers, and I've just been all week long, I've just been walking around with this cloud over me. But I've talked to some other people, and they made me feel better because they didn't know either. But I don't understand how that I did not know that.
Oh, well, I know one thing. Anthony is he's proud to have me as a younger brother, and I am equally as proud to have him as a brother.
Oh.
And so I would say that's probably on me. I don't do enough about speaking highly of him, and so and you're not the only one. I've had many people come up to me and tell me that they were just dumbfounded that we are brothers.
Well, it just makes me mad because I work in this business, number one, and number two, I was in school at the time. So I'm like, I continue to shake my head, but I couldn't be happier to have you here. You've been just doing some great things over in Terre Haute. You, after college, got drafted by my team when I was growing up, the LA Rams, but just a great storybook life for you. And there's a third brother, you guys. I read the great story of you recently graduating from IU. Congratulations, by the way. We're going to talk about that. There's also a third brother. I cannot imagine when I was in high school, we're about the same age, and I almost had to play you guys in the playoffs. Thank gosh we didn't have to, because I can't imagine playing against all three of you dudes. That would not have been fun. But and what a time that had to be growing up with you three characters.
Well, the thing about my third brother, Randy's actually right in the middle of Anthony and myself. I am the baby brother. And so in second grade, Randy, he got held back. And so he was, down and out until we realized, now, wait a minute, we can do the rest of our educational experience in the same grade. And so as it was, Jim, during gym classes, we're having competitions. If he didn't win, like the handball or the badminton or the mile race. If he didn't win it, I won it. And if I didn't win it, he won it. And so we went through. It was like great times going through with my brother going through school.
What having read that story, John Blau did a terrific work on that. What was it just like for you guys when you were all in the same backfield and you're splitting carries and everything like that? Just what was that scene like? And I understand. I guess it's senior year. I guess Randy transferred so that you guys would both have more of an opportunity. Just what was that just sort of whole sort of arc of that experience like to go from playing all together and ending up separating so that each of you would have a better shot?
Well, our uncles, they got us into playing sports, and so when we were young boys, we were playing football with our uncles and some of the community friends, and so we grew up playing football, and so as it was 1985, could have been 84, we played Sullivan High School. And all three of us scored multiple touchdowns, and I think Randy was the leading rusher that game. We all were over 100 yards, and so we got a glimpse of what it could have been, and so that's what we hold on to. And so Randy decided in high school that he was going to transfer in order to give us both a better shot at obtaining our dreams, and so he don't regret that. Matter of fact, he tells me that's what an older brother is supposed to do, and so he's just a class act. I wish more people knew more about my brother Randy.
Well, just hearing you talk, I can, not having the personal fortune of being able to know you personally, but just talking to you, I can tell you are also a class act. I know AT is a class act. I can tell that entire family is obviously a class act. What a great, great group of not just successful, athletically successful young men, but just great young men or men you guys all turned out to be. What a tribute to your parents.
And it all comes from my mother. And me being at 50 years old, my mother still calls and she checks on me and she makes sure that I'm doing the right thing. For instance,
what Ernie? Did want to ask just a little more about your getting your degree. What was just I guess take us through as much as you can of that just process. I mean, what was it like for you to? I know you saw basically the student athlete bill of rights and the opportunity to go back. I mean, just what was it like for you to sort of go through that experience? What was it like to become a student again at that age? And just what does it mean to you to have your degree now?
Yeah, I knew that was out there. And so one of my last conversations with Coach Bill Mallory, when we were watching his son at Indiana State practice, he challenged me. He said, at some point it has to be now or never. And I said, yes, sir. And so I made up in my mind at the age of 50 that I was going to come back, enroll on campus in Bloomington, move to Bloomington, and I was just going to become a student. And so Randy, he guided me through that. Randy, of course, has his master's degree in counseling. And so I leaned on him a lot, and he said, no, you got to become a student. You have to get your backpack. You have to enroll or go live in a community that caters to students. And so I did that. I got on the bus every day with students, and the students were so kind. It was so refreshing. I fed off of their energy. And so a funny story, I was sitting in class, and one of the girls, we used to always greet each other. And so one day she came in, she said, so, Mr. Thompson. I said, oh, please, I beg of you. I knew my cover was blown. And she says, you can never fit in as a regular student. And I said, please don't tell anyone. And so I had to sign a picture for her to keep her quiet. And so that's what I wanted.
That's awesome. And you've had experienced so many great things. And then, so when you were in college at IU, the NFL comes calling and you head off, you get drafted by the Rams. Talk about as a young guy, I mean, because you were still, a junior in college. So that means you were like 20, 21 years old. Man, I can't imagine. That was my team when I was 21 years old. So I can't imagine getting drafted by them. What was that experience like going through all that?
Well, that was one of my teams too. I kind of idolized Eric Dickerson. I remember the moment I was sitting in my home on South 9th Street in Terre Haute, upstairs bedroom. I had my cordless phone. I was waiting on the call, and so I received the call. And it was Miss Georgia Frontier. At the time, she was.
Oh my gosh!
And Thompson, she said, "How would you feel about working for a woman?" Within a moment's notice, I knew I had to come out with an answer, and I said, "Mr. Frontier, I would love nothing more than to work for you." And she says, "Congratulations, Mr. Thompson. You are now a Los Angeles Ram." At that moment, to realize that my dream had actually come true. I kind of liken that to me obtaining my degree. Those two feelings are like none other in the world that I have ever experienced.
I can't imagine, because I've got a degree, but I've never heard my name being called by the LA Rams, so I cannot even put anything close to know what that feeling is like. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Georgia Frontier on the phone. That'd be like somebody punking me, like, yeah, the president's on the phone for him. Like, yeah, right. That's incredible. And then, yeah. And so what's it like? Like, cause you just said as well that they were one of your teams. Not only now are you experiencing your dreams are now reality, but it's with one of the teams you idolized on a team. Was Derek Dickerson still with the Rams then?
No, he was not with the Rams back then. I remember Marcus Dupree. I idolized him when he played at Oklahoma, Cleveland Gary, just like the likes of, and Jim Everett was the quarterback, a Purdue grad. If so, you can imagine how those practices went.
What fun times those were, man. So you have that experience. And then you come back and you basically dedicated your life to the city of Terre Haute, your hometown, with your career. And it seems like it's come full circle for you. You've just gotten to experience so much and do so much good with all of that. There's
nothing more pleasing to me than to be able to help a child. And when those children are, of the marginalized populations, I dedicate my life work to helping kids. And so when I wake up every day, there's a couple things that I have to do. One is play the piano. I try to play, dip into the classics, do some yoga, help female athletes, super tough female athletes. And then I try to, every day, I try to speak positive, something positive into the life of a child. I dedicate my life to doing that.
How much do you think now having your degree is going to help you in that pursuit? I mean, I know just again from reading the story, I know it just felt like this pang of feeling like that you used the term hypocrite. What does this mean now to be through that? Because you get to say, hey, I never gave up. I always wanted this. My whole life I was concerned about it, and I did it. I got it done. How much does that help you just sort of continue to push, the message to say, to push people to follow their dreams and do what they, get what they want out of their life?
Well, it's just a confidence builder. Just to walk around knowing that I graduate from such a prestigious university like Indiana University, and for people to look at me and to realize, I just want to be a walking billboard, a living testimony for people who realize that there are dreams out there that maybe they once had that they put on the back burner, and to look at me and say, hey, if this guy can do this at the age of 50, then anything is possible. And that's kind of what I want people to look at me and to realize.
Man, are you still in Bloomington? I know you'd come back to get your degree. You still here? Or are you back in Terre Haute?
I am living in Bloomington. I got a fitness group in Terre Haute, so I travel back and forth. And so I would imagine that my final landing spot is going to be here in Bloomington. Certainly, it would be idea for me to just to continue to expand on the work here in Bloomington that I did in Terre Haute.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just looking forward to having the honor of actually getting to meet you. I was funny. I was telling the story of one of my former roommates, Vince Fisher, played football here about the time you did. He's a little older than you. He was a graduate assistant when we lived together, but he introduced me to AT one day, and I remember we shook hands, and I remember at that moment in my head, I thought that was like shaking hands with a statue. His hand was statue hard, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm looking forward to meeting you as well, and having the honor of meeting another one of the great Thompson brothers. Man, your mother, what a spectacular woman she was, without ever having known her either, just by knowing the three of you guys. What spectacular men you turn out to be. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us here today.
Hey, Jim, anytime. You got my number. We can go to lunch, talk all things, IU. So anytime. I would count it an honor also to meet you.
Looking forward to it. Ernie Thompson, former IU great and still an IU great. Just a great all the way around, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. What did I say?
Yeah. Good.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. We got more coming up. Alec Lasley is going to join us. We're going to talk about some IU basketball recruiting. Stay tuned. We've got more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios coming up right after this.
But if you ask where I'm staying tonight, I gotta be like, oh baby, no baby, you got me all wrong, baby. My baby's already got all of my love.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle sitting in with you, Dustin DePirick here as well. Now we're joined by Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com, talking about some IU basketball recruiting. First, Alec, yesterday the decision came out, conference games only. That's not going to be for basketball yet. I expect that to be the case, but that is an announcement that happened yesterday. I do expect that to happen for basketball, though, as well. Dustin, we didn't talk about that, but Alec, I think that they will end up heading in that direction. Alec, did we lose him?
He seems frozen.
Yep. I think we've lost him. Anyway, Dustin, I'll ask you.
I think we'll wait till he gets back. Yeah, no, I mean,
one of the things. One of the things.
Well, yeah, we're going to skip him. Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could see it. It's tough to say. I mean, obviously, I don't think they'll make that call until they get into football season and until they, see what it's like, see if there's any kind of, if it starts to come down by September, if it starts to come down by October, I would say probably September 1 or mid-September is probably a go, no go date. Decide, if there's going to be non-conference basketball play, and they could obviously just decide not to play until January, and just pick it up with what conference play would usually be. Skip the non-conference games, skip the Mauis and everything. Like all that could certainly happen. It wouldn't surprise me, but I imagine that they're going to let this ride for a while longer and hope that there's that we do better next time. Basically, basically the last sort of the attempt at opening up hasn't gone so well nationally, and if maybe take a more if nationwide we take a more responsible path toward doing that, maybe it gets better by mid-September, October. So
Alec is back with us now. Had a little technical issue there. Got a new name under the 2020 board, I think, Alec, that you've been working hard on.
Yeah.
Yep.
From Massachusetts, Alexis Reyes. Just kind of initial contact, nothing too serious right now. Just another shooting guard that they're really looking at. Obviously, a guy who
having some problems with Alec this morning for some reason. Don't understand that. Also going on this weekend,
more of, in need when you're looking at some of those backcourt players. Obviously, the backcourt pretty stacked for the next year, but everything kind of moving forward is looking for, either that hybrid forward or that shooting guard who can make some shots.
And at some point, as we get this year starts to wind down, decisions are going to start to be made by some guys. We had some commitments, obviously Logan Duncan when he was committed, but there's this big gap, and then you've got Hoosier fans waiting. Of course, everybody waiting to see what Trey Kaufman's going to do. We know he's in no hurry. He doesn't have to be in a hurry, but who's going to be that first domino that falls for Indiana is what I know a lot of Hoosier fans are wondering.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's anyone, it could be even someone in the 2022 class. But if we're looking at 2021, it probably will be, either Mason Miller or Trey Kaufman. And I really don't think anything's going to happen until kind of the new year and more to the spring area. I just don't see anyone really kind of forcing a commitment or trying to move up their timeline just because, they're not able to visit right now. And the hope is obviously, maybe even in the winter, but, hopefully in the spring, they'll at least be able to take a couple of visits and then obviously be able to kind of go from there.
So go ahead. So you don't even think that they're going to pop by the early signing deadline? You think Trey especially is going to be a late sign?
I do. I mean, he's not one who's going to rush into a decision. I know we've talked about it a couple times before, but he's thinking this through very, very analytically and not just kind of going to go off of a field that he has. And I know, one thing that he may want to do is just visit Indiana again or visit one of these other schools one more time and just kind of cement the fact that, hey, IU is the school and just kind of get that last bit of kind of feel for anywhere else. But I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be Indiana for Trey Kaufman, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon.
And now,
do you think the 2021 class in general is going to do a lot of spring signing? I mean, do you expect to see a shift in this class nationwide towards spring signing period?
I think it depends on the prospect. I think some of the guys who a lot of these high majors are, going after, and a lot of these, kind of blue bloods and Indiana and these kind of programs are going to see more of a spring shift. just because obviously those guys are going to be waiting more for early playing time and kind of waiting to see what the roster is going to look like, and see kind of who else maybe class either signs with the program that
having some problem with that.
Maybe aren't on the high now. We'll kind of jump before that point.
You know, and something else I just thought of is a lot of these guys and you mentioned Trey Kaufman would love to see Indiana again, but there's some of these guys that have never visited any of these schools. And I got to be honest with you, I don't see that changing anytime soon, Dustin. Obviously, they're going to conference games only. They're not going to have people coming in from the outside visits and the parents and all that. That's just too many outside people. So I don't see that changing this season for certain.
I mean, you can speak to this too, Alec. I would think they'd still find a way to bring them on. If they can bring anybody on campus, I imagine they'll try to bring recruits on because it's not too many humans. What do you think, Alec? Do you expect to see visitations in the fall? Do you think they'll cut it out or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is, you know, right now obviously they have the recruiting freeze, so coaches really can't have any sort of contact with players on campus, and they can't really set anything up, you know, kind of, you know, officially like that. I know we've seen, you know, even football players as well going to visit some of these schools just like unofficially and walk around campus and stuff like that. So I think you may see that a little bit more. But again, I mean, for some of these guys, they've been on campus 5-6 times already. So I don't really know what just kind of walking around campus would really do. Obviously for some of these other guys, for like a Mason Miller who hasn't been on campus, that would be a little bit different. But then again, you know, if you can do some of this stuff over, you know, Zoom and more virtually, you know, maybe they just kind of stick to that and they kind of pull the trigger on committing to a place just through, you know, virtual visits and stuff like that.
So, I mean, do you go ahead? I was just going to say, does this, you know, continue to kind of push it towards? Does it seem like the commitments are going to end up staying more regional? Do you think a lot of guys will end up committing to places that they actually get to go? You know, like I said, I mean, Trey's been on Indiana's campus a lot, but there's a lot of other places that are after him that he probably hasn't had a chance to see because he's not as close geographically. Do you expect to see a lot of kids go with what they're more comfortable with, go to places that they can, you know, briefly drive to and just take a lap, you know, around campus, as opposed to places that, you know, that you need a day's drive and, you know, the school to put you up in a hotel for? I mean, do you expect to see that kind of have an impact? Just, you know, guys want to stay more local because it's what they're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's what's going to end up, you know, playing in Indiana's favor for Trey Kaufman. Obviously, you know, Virginia is kind of one of those schools that have come on a little bit later here and kind of when COVID started. Obviously, he hasn't been able to visit, you know, out east yet. And I think that would be one thing that one would help him out in kind of making a decision where, hey, if I'm really not going to be able to visit, you know, there comes a point when you can only, you know, hold out for so long. And right. you will have to, you know, eventually make a decision here before. And I know Trey Kaufman's always going to have a spot, but there comes a point where, you know, the coaches can't hold out forever on a guy, no matter how, you know, how good or how long they've been involved with him. And I think that will ultimately, you know, push him to stay more, you know, more local where, you know, he knows everything's, you know, going to be a little bit safer if things do kind of kick back up again. And it's just something that he's a lot more comfortable with because he has spent a lot more time in that area.
And we know guys want to play with the good players, want to play with the good players. I mean, that's just natural and common sense. And we've seen Ohio State have great success on the football side, minus the visits. Guys just committing, so they had an advantage there. But, of course, Ohio State football is where IU basketball used to be and where they'd like to get back to. But having that success, Archie has had a little bit of success that he had last year, fed into, and the recruiting class seems to be feeding into the next class, seems to be getting better and better for him. But his next step is recruiting outside of the state of Indiana, guys like Mason Miller, who that's where the importance of getting those guys on campus, I think, is most of all, most critical.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you've seen it more and more over the past couple of classes with Archie Miller that, you know, when these guys do get on campus, one, obviously Indiana's done a great job of, you know, building up the facilities. Obviously, you know, the new dorms that the players are staying in now is basically top class. So it's pretty hard to say no to IU with all that tradition. And then once you get to campus and seeing all the facilities and all the upgrades that they've made, and obviously playing in Assembly Hall, that's just a message that, one, it's easy to relate, over the phone and virtually, but once you actually see it in person, I think that kind of takes it to the next step and really kind of takes your recruiting pitch to the next level. But yeah, obviously getting some of those out-of-state guys to get on campus is definitely a necessity and something that they really want to do. Just, a matter of time, who knows when that actually will take place.
And this weekend, there will be some basketball action going on as Indiana Elite will be in action. I'll be up there to check those guys out. But they continue to stay in shape over the summer and get some workouts in.
Yeah, it's funny watching them. I guess the first weekend they played, you could definitely tell, some of the guys may not have been staying in as top shape as they probably should have. The conditioning is definitely one thing that I've noticed just from watching, all these, either a live stream or anything like that with any of these AAU events. Just, guys haven't really been able to play a lot of 5-on-5. So definitely kind of running full court is something that, is interesting nowadays, just because some of these guys really haven't been able to do that.
I hear you. Alec Lasley joining us from the Hoosier with some updates on Indiana basketball recruiting. Alec, I appreciate you joining us as always. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, and Alec is there doing that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
Sounds good. You guys take care.
There you go. Alec Lasley joining us. Appreciate that. Dustin DePirick sitting in with me as well. Yeah, that's something, Dustin, the conditioning. These guys, all these people, sports, my daughter plays sports, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, where they would normally have been doing had life been normal, where you kind of naturally stay in that mid-level shape and just kind of get back to base. But there's been kind of a drop-off, and it makes you wonder, man, is this going to lead to some extra injuries this year because of that? Is with all this change? I mean, none of it could be predicted or changed. I know that, but it's just a question that I just thought of.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something I've been wondering and asked about with different people, because it's just like, okay, what do you have to do? I mean, not everybody has a gym in their house. I mean, some people have a lot of people have trainers now, and a lot of those trainers, have access that you could go. You've been able to go to a gym, by yourself. But it's just you just don't have everything that you would have if you're on campus and working with a strength and conditioning coach, or if you're, you've got access to, your high school gym or whatever, just playing. I mean, you don't, like, there is still something, no matter how much you're running on your own or doing sprints or whatever, it's hard to replicate a 5-on-5, full court game.
At that level.
At that level. I mean, and for AAU level kids or summer travel level kids, I mean, they're a lot of times been playing 2-3 games a day. It's not as, the workload isn't what it used to be. I mean, even like, 10 years ago, you'd have a lot more, you'd have guys playing 3 games a day and 9 games in a weekend and getting, just flat out exhausted. And this is a different level. Now they're a little bit more careful about that. But still, it's multiple games, multiple full court 5-on-5 games over a weekend. It's just not that you're doing, and it is a different kind of shape. I mean, you just kind of forget, like, especially, like, I don't know the last time you played basketball was, but it's just like, I mean, anytime, that's the thing I used to be able to do all the time when I was a kid, even though I wasn't good at all. But like, I mean, I still run and keep myself in shape. But if I go try to play basketball, I mean, my legs are shot.
My body is shot.
My body is shot. You're just like, man, like, so like you get out of it. It's a special kind of conditioning. I mean, like, each sport is its own special kind of conditioning. You're asking your muscles to do things that are different than just, running around, like, getting in a stance, staying in a stance, and then going from that to jumping. It's just like, it's a lot on your legs. And when you're used to doing it, it just becomes part of it. Your body's just used to it. If you're playing basketball all the time, you don't even notice. You go for a while not doing it though, and your legs let you know, and your body lets you know. And
in a hurry.
That's, I think, what you're going to see from, pros, college guys, these travel kids that are just jumping right into it. It's going to be a different level of game, and they're going to have to, recalibrate their bodies and get back used to this. Because usually by this point, this will be Peach Jam. I didn't even realize that this will be Peach Jam week right now. Instead, these kids missed an entire spring where you would have been going at it full tilt, and they would be peaking for this. Now they're just kind of shaking the rust off to go play in some of these tournaments, and they're just not going to be the same players.
Ryan hit up the text line, says, hope all is well. Do you know when the NCAA football schedule will start with just conference games? Good question. No, I do not. I have not seen, because they have to – that was leading into my next question to you is now they have to create this schedule. Part of it, 2/3 of it's already created because you've got the
that already had the league play, half the league play put together.
Yeah. And now you've got to slot in – well, I guess they already had – they were already scheduled, nine conference games already? So they probably got to make it one. So it's not that big a deal.
Do you want to play 10? Do you want to play 12?
Yeah, so that's how are they going to do that? Then now you get into, of course, you obviously are playing everybody in your division because they couldn't do it any other way.
Right.
But so it's going to be the bowl shakeout. Is there going to be a bowl season? I mean, golly, you talk about fans. That's what bowl games live on. Fans coming to those cities to stay in those hotels and eat at those restaurants and buy a ticket to the game. But it's all the other stuff they do while they're in town for those 4 days that all of these cities are also sitting on their hands. And it's like as we just talked about yesterday with Indiana and the gate receipts from the Gator Bowl. You spend all that money. A team has to spend all that money to travel and eat and everything like that. And so if that team's got to spend all that money to travel and eat, the money's not coming back. There's not income if you don't have, the gate receipts. I mean, you're going to get certain amount of money to have it on TV. There is, everybody gets a certain amount of cash just from having it on ESPN or whatever it might be. And they don't necessarily fill those joints, for the bowl games. You don't necessarily have sold out crowds for a Gator Bowl or a Citrus Bowl or something like that, but you still have it close. You still sell a lot of tickets, and you have to sell your own allotment as well. So it's just like, all right, what is that even going to look like? What kind of payouts are you going to have? Are you going to end up going, $1 million in the red to play in a bowl game just to be on TV? I mean, and when you're already going to take these big hits as it is, for not having your own gate receipts during the season, what does that look like? I mean, the finances and the financial decisions of college athletics programs are going to be totally different this year. It's going to be totally different, and it's probably going to take years to recover. Oh, absolutely. Tim hit the text line as well, wanting to know, does Victor Oladipo end up in Miami as a free agent?
It could happen. He loves Miami. It seems like he loves
Miami. Who doesn't?
Yes. Vic would be such a Miami guy. That's for sure. I could definitely see that. I think that would be a place he would want to look. And he is such a talented person overall. I mean, certainly with the music career and the singing and everything.
Oh, yeah. It goes together.
I think he'd like to be somewhere that's more media driven if he could. And now that all depends. I mean, that doesn't mean that the Pacers can't keep him because I think he obviously has a soft spot for Indiana. Obviously, he really cares about, this city, this town. And I think it matters to him that he's a star in Indy. And I think believes that he probably, can see that he can still be a superstar and live in Indianapolis. But I think he'll have to see that. I mean, I think if he has gets back healthy in 2020, 21, and, gets back to being the player he was and then goes back, and gets, more not notoriety, but more exposure again, might be able to kind of see, okay, I can do both here. And this is something that works. And in Miami, I might fall into, I might not get to have as much exposure basically because you just get drowned out to a certain degree in Miami. You're closer to other things in Miami that you can turn into something. But, like the only time that you've seen Miami be is with Wade and LeBron, and those guys were superstars on top of superstars. I mean, Vic is terrific, but Vic's not LeBron. And if you're not LeBron in Miami, it's tough to sell tickets. I mean, the Marlins, have struggled to sell tickets for years. The Heat have generally struggled to sell tickets when they didn't have the Heatles. So, that's something I'm sure he could look into, but I'm sure that there are counter arguments against it, I think.
Yeah, he certainly has to feel he can win a championship at either of those places. I mean, guys are not going to stay someplace if they don't feel that they can win. And obviously, Vic wants to win like everybody else, especially after this injury. He's probably thinking about that a little more so because that brings your career into perspective. It brings it into reality. It brings an end date into reality that it's not only it can happen at any time. And so I'm sure he doesn't take any of that for granted, but we'll see how that all balances out. Man, it's been another great week. Cannot thank Dustin DePiriga enough. It's been a blast, brother. It's been a blast. Can't thank Ernie Thompson. That was just a joy having him on. I cannot wait. I am going to go to great lengths to make sure I meet that man soon. I can't wait. Alec Lasley on as well, doing a great job as always. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers there. As well. But keep it tuned here as well. We'll be back on Monday to do it all again. I hope everybody goes out and has a tremendous weekend. Say something nice to somebody. Do something nice for somebody. Thanks a lot to you, Dustin. I hope you have a great weekend. Any big plans?
Not that I know of. I got to ask my wife. I'm sure she's got something I got to
do. That's just like I asked the last time I saw Bob Knight. Coach, what's it like being back to IU? Well, my wife's not around to tell me, so he was honest there. But we appreciate everybody. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks, Jimmy. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.